So some of you don't like my truck. You think I'm killing the ozone. I guess to that I'd say, so we're back in the truck for the second time. And I appreciate you guys' feedback on the first one. I am going to get an external mic for my GoPro, and hopefully that will help you hear me more than hear my truck, although some of you probably just want to hear my truck and not me flapping my gums. But I do appreciate the feedback. The heavy majority of you said that you enjoyed it and you'd like to see more. A couple people said, oh, stick to gameplay videos, man. You suck at talking in your car. But for the most part, you guys seem to enjoy it. I actually, as weird as it felt, it was pretty fun, so I'm going to give it another try here. In the last one I talked about, doing another range video and stuff like that. Well, this time, I'm actually going to talk about something different. And as far as the range video goes, I'll get to that when I get to it, but we spontaneously, after talking to a realtor, decided to list our house. So the last week or two has just been us busting our rear ends trying to get this house ready to sell. We've had like 6 showings already. We've got 3 more today. We've already got some scheduled for next week. It's been insane, man. If you live in a, kind of a city area, maybe just outside the main city, and you're trying to sell a house in this market, man, jump on it. If you've got any equity in that house, jump on it. So I won't be able to do the range video for a while, but hopefully, maybe I'll sell this house and I'll be able to get my own yard, my own acreage, and actually do the range video on my own property. But anyway, this time I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, something that you guys have been asking me about. Probably my most common question outside of gameplay stuff is, LP, man, what happened to your Camaro? And I'll be honest, I get a little choked up when I talk about it. My Camaro died a slow and painful death. Some of you guys probably remember a couple years ago I bought a 1979 Z28 Camaro somewhere around this area. I have no idea where the camera is. I'll put the picture. I bought it out of Detroit. The guy told me it was a 468 stroker motor, pushing 600-700 horsepower, running high 10s in a quarter mile. It had, it was the whole frame had been redone. It's full roll cage, and half-inch fuel lines, all the best stuff in it. 10.5-inch slicks on the back, and the car ran great when I drove it. Burned the tires right off the car, and the week I got it home, I started having nothing but problems, blowing through starters, fuel pumps. My engine started ticking, but it wasn't like an oil tick. It was more like a lifter tick, and it's kind of the same thing, but all of a sudden it didn't feel like it had the power anymore. It didn't feel like it had 600-700 horsepower. Sometimes when you go test drive a car, you get a little amped up, and the most horsepower I'd ever had in a muscle car before was like 300-something horsepower. So now going to 600-700, I felt a lot more power, but it just didn't feel, once I got home and I came off the high, it didn't feel like 600-700 horsepower. Come to find out, I bent a lifter, or at some point a lifter got bent. I was actually pretty much running on 7 cylinders. Then I snapped a ring in the number 5 cylinder, scored it up and down, oil getting into the chamber, all just bad news. Car's dead. So that was pretty much the last year and a half, was me just looking at a car that I couldn't drive anymore. So depressing. Decided, all right, I'm going to have somebody build me an engine. So I brought it to an engine shop local here. He said, all right, I'll build you. Well, first of all, he analyzed my engine, told me everything that was wrong with it, and said, yeah, at best you were pushing 400 horsepower and about 500 foot-pounds of torque in the setup that it was. I said, oh, okay, well, that's sweet. Guy lied to me. Craigslist, big surprise. So he said, I'll build you a true 468, which is a 454 bored 60 over. And he said it'll push 550 horsepower at the crank and close to 600 foot-pounds of torque, or I forget what setup we agreed on, but it was somewhere around there. And he's like, this thing will just be a real nice pavement pounder, pump gas, and I'll do it in 3 to 4 weeks, and I'll do it for $4,300 max. And like I said, long story short, after 4 months, he told me 3 to 4 weeks, after 4 months, I went there with 3 police officers, to get my engine. It was completed, but it wasn't completed as much as he said, and he tried to charge me almost $5,000. And after talking with him for about 20 minutes with the officers present, we finally settled on the 4,300, and I would just take my money and my engine, I'd leave, and that's pretty much it. The problem is, even though it's completed from pan to intake, he didn't balance the engine, so I don't know what's going to happen if I try to turn the key. And I don't know what he did to this engine, so I actually put the engine on Craigslist. It's like, screw it, I'm done with it, I'm not going to deal with it. And the first email I get is from a guy looking for an engine. He's super interested. He asked me where it got built. I tell him where it got built, and he says, oh, I just had an engine built by him about 6 months ago. He did the exact same thing to me, and the engine that I ended up putting in my car blew up after 2 weeks, and we're going to court. No thanks. So that's where I'm at with my Camaro. I just moved it to a friend's house to store while we're trying to figure out all this house stuff. The engine's inside the car, it's not hooked up, it's just sitting there. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna have to pay somebody probably $1,500 to go through that engine. I've called a couple different shops and they say they won't touch it because they know who built it. The only way they'll do it is if they can do a complete rebuild, tear down on the engine, and it's just a nightmare. So, moral of the story, lessons of the story, no matter how badly you want, I know this is common sense, but sometimes you get caught up in a little bit. No matter how bad you want something done, man, don't pay a mechanic all the money. I know this sounds like common sense, but like I said, man, I wanted so badly to drive this car. I wanted so badly to have this thing done, but I trusted this jerk off, and that's what happens. Unfortunately, you just cannot trust a mechanic. You can't trust a lot of people, but a mechanic is definitely one of them. Now, I know there's probably going to be some mechanics out there that say, well, LP, I would never have done that to you. I would have taken care of you. Well, maybe you would have, but I got screwed over, and it's my fault. It's 100% my fault. I should not have given him the full coverage or the full cost. Even if I wouldn't have done that, I probably still would never have gotten it done. I don't think he was a bad guy. I just think he got in over his head. So anyway, if you guys got any fun car stories for me, or even good car stories, let me know down in the comments. Any other, there's another fart box. It's even got a wing on it. Oh, I almost drove off the road. Okay. Crazy Americans. If you guys have any topics for future videos, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. Later.